Monday, February 24th, 2020, after a night of drinking with her boyfriend, Jorge Torres, Sarah Boone wakes up alone in her bed. She lies in bed for just a little bit, and after waking more fully, she realizes that her boyfriend, Jorge Torres, has never come up to bed. Maybe he got up early and he was on the laptop downstairs. She ponders this for a few moments, and then she remembers something terrifying. She runs downstairs to the first level of her townhome and she notices a suitcase on the floor, and it all comes flooding back to her. She opens up the suitcase to the horrifying discovery of her boyfriend, Jorge, unresponsive inside. Meanwhile, her phone has been ringing off the hook. Today is her day with her son, Lucas, and her ex-husband, Brian, has been calling for over an hour to finalize arrangements. Sarah finally answers her phone and tells Brian he needs to get over there now. Something has happened to Jorge. Brian tells Sarah that he's on his way. She calls him back a few minutes later to make sure that he's still coming. When Brian arrives, he can see Jorge's legs from the front doorway and immediately tells Sarah to call 911. While on the phone with the 911 dispatcher, Sarah says that there is blood coming from Jorge's mouth and keeps repeating, "He's purple and stiff." This is the story of Sarah Boone, the suitcase murderer, and we're about to get right into it from the beginning. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is that you are tuning in. This is Unapologetically Me, featuring me. No special guest, just me. Now, I've done quite a bit of research on this case, and there are a few inconsistencies about how this case has been reported, so I'm going to do my best to give you what really happened here. But first, to anyone who is new here, welcome. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I hope that you find something educational and you learn something about this case from this video. To all my current subscribers, thank you guys so much for always coming back and fighting over who's first, guys. You guys are hilarious and I love you, and I really do appreciate all of you. At the end of this video, I'm going to be giving my opinion and what I think happened in regards to this case. So make sure you stick around to the end if you want to hear my opinion. One thing I want to make sure you guys know from the beginning is that you're going to have one hell of a time trying to figure out who's the real victim in this case. Winter Park, Florida, February 23rd, 2020. It was a Sunday afternoon, and Sarah Boone and Jorge Torres were enjoying some Chardonnay out in the garden. It began to get dark, so they moved inside the townhome that they shared together for the past 3.5 years, and Sarah suggested that they put a puzzle together and do some painting. I mean, picture it. It's a beautiful day in Florida, the sun is setting, after some Chardonnay out in the garden, we're now going to go in and do some art, maybe put a puzzle together. Sarah described the day as a good day. Sarah would say she suggested the puzzle and artwork to keep Jorge distracted from consuming too much alcohol, which had been a problem in the past. But Jorge was turning over a new leaf, thanks to Sarah, and all of that was in the past. Jorge had a criminal background, and much of his time spent in jail was due to DV situation. He also appeared to have a drinking problem, according to the court. He was currently in classes for both of these things at the time of his death. Sarah described herself as a straight-A student, an outstanding mother, and someone who excelled at everything she did. She was trying to save Jorge. Sarah was trying to make him a better person, and according to her, it was working. According to Sarah, even Jorge's probation officer was over the moon with Sarah and all that she had done to help Jorge, even going as far as to call her and thank her for her hard work and dedication to helping Jorge work through his deep-rooted issues. After years of Jorge being in and out of jail, he was finally beginning to change for the better, all thanks to Sarah, of course. Sarah and Jorge met in 2017 and began dating. Both of them had been married prior and both had kids from their previous marriages. Sarah had a son with her ex-husband, and Jorge had 3 daughters with his ex-wife, while Sarah and her ex-husband Brian still maintained a working relationship in regards to their son. Jorge and his ex-wife, according to Sarah, did not always see eye to eye, and therefore Jorge was unable to see his children. Also, according According to Sarah, this was because George's ex-wife was crazy. George, being unallowed to have visitation with his daughters, had absolutely nothing to do with him. In July 2018, however, Sarah Boone was charged with battery by. In her defense, Sarah said she was dragged up the stairs by George and kicked in her right eye. She said that this fight began after the two had been out at a bar, and Sarah had asked a random man for a cigarette, which George didn't like at all. The two began arguing, they left, they continued arguing when they got home. George had a different story of what happened, and he said that Sarah began him and that he had to kick her to get off of him as he was losing consciousness, afraid that he would soon be incapacitated. So according to George, he kicked her in self-defense. Now, I don't know about you guys, but in the position that you would be in if someone was doing what he alleged she was doing to him, how are you gonna kick her in the eye? What is he, a contortionist? In the end, deputies could not tell who was the primary aggressor in that incident. They both appeared to have injuries. George had marks around his neck. Sarah had a black eye. The case was dropped. George went on to be charged with battery, however, 3 more times in 2019. All charges stemming from issues with Sarah. The third charge, the most recent charge before George's death, Sarah alleged that George had punched her in her left ear. This time, Sarah finally presses charges, and the court puts a no contact order in place and a temporary injunction of protection. After serving some jail time, George is on probation in order to take some classes for DV and substance abuse. This paints a much different picture of the couple than Sarah likes to portray them. It's a bit different than enjoying some Chardonnay in the garden and putting puzzles together. Nevertheless, according to Sarah, the court-ordered classes were really beginning to help George. The classes, coupled with Sarah's love and care and support, were helping to mold George into a much better person and a much better partner. Sarah also said that in the weeks leading up to George's tragic death, that everything had been wonderful. He had slowed down on his drinking, and because of that, things were going much more smoothly between the two. Sarah explained that George was really trying to change and that she could see that.
He was really trying.
He did, however, have the issues with his ex-wife that kept him from his kids, and he had also been having issues at his work, Ace Hardware. These things were creating stress, but overall, Sarah would say that they were working through these issues together, and the issues between them, as far as their relationship was concerned, were in the past. First, we're going to go with Sarah's account of the events that took place that night and into the next day. After that, we're going to look at the facts and the evidence, and I will share my opinion, and then you guys can decide what you think. February 23rd, 2020, Sunday evening, the two are now painting while watching trailers for upcoming movies on her laptop. The two at some point decide to play a game of hide and seek. Yes, I don't think I mentioned yet, they are both 42 years old, but they decided to play a little drinking game of hide and seek. Sarah says that it was first her turn to hide. She went upstairs and hid in the shower. George never came to find her, so she came back downstairs. Like, come on, George, what the hell? We're supposed to be playing hide and seek. That means you have to seek me. I hid. Let's go. Now it's George's turn to hide, and there happens to be a suitcase just sitting out in the living room area. Later on, Sarah would say that this was because they were going to be putting donations in it to take it to charity that week, but as of Sunday, it was empty. Sarah claims that George thought it would be funny to see if he could fit inside the suitcase to hide. I guess they don't understand the concept of hide and seek. I think maybe after George didn't go seek out Sarah when she hid, she figured, let me help you hide. I'll already know where you are. I mean, I don't know. This makes no sense to me, but these cases rarely ever make sense to me. So George gets in the suitcase and Sarah closes it up, and they're both laughing and it's funny and they're playing. At 12:30 a.m., Sarah decides to go upstairs and lie down for bed. She falls asleep while waiting for George to come up. Sarah wakes up the next day. It's Monday, February 24th. She notices that George is not in bed next to her. She figures, okay, I guess he's downstairs on the laptop. So she lies in bed for a bit, waking up a bit more and then realizing at about 12:30 p.m. it's too quiet downstairs. She begins to make her way downstairs, and when she gets to the bottom of the stairs, she sees the suitcase still where it was the night before. She immediately is horrified, realizing that George is still inside it. He was never able to get out. At about 11 a.m., Brian, Sarah's ex-husband, begins calling Sarah to see if she'd be picking up their son from school, as was planned. Not able to get an answer, he continues continues to call here and there. Later on, Brian would tell police that this really wasn't that abnormal for Sarah. She tended to get drunk and neglect her motherly duties, which is probably why her son lives with Brian most of the time, I assume. Sarah called Brian back, and she's panicking. She tells Brian that something has happened to George and that he needs to get over there immediately. Brian tells Sarah that he's on his way, but she should probably call 911. Brian arrives, he finds Sarah out of her apartment, and as he makes his way toward the front door, he can already see George lying on his back on the floor. Without going any further, he tells Sarah to call 911 again. Sarah calls 911, and this is a little bit of the recording.
911, what is the location of your emergency?
France Court, apartment 3.
What's the street name?
France, F-R-A-N-T-Z.
And the apartment number?
3.
Is this a police or medical?
My boyfriend is dead.
Okay, send the line for the fire department. Do not hang up.
Okay, 4748 France, correct?
Correct.
All right, correct. Now tell me exactly what happened there.
My boyfriend and I were playing last night, and I put him in his case and we were playing, and like kind of hide and seek kind of thing. So I fell asleep, and I woke up, and he was dead in the suitcase. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
Apartment 3?
Yes, like he has like blood coming out of his mouth, and I don't know if like he had like an aneurysm or what happened.
Right, okay, all right, okay. Listen, we're getting help out there too. All right, okay. Okay,
now?
Okay, man, listen, we're on our way out there. Yeah. Okay, is he hanging from somewhere or what, ma'am?
No, I pulled him out of the suitcase. I tried giving him CPR.
Okay, so he was in a suitcase?
Yes, and I fell asleep.
All right, listen to me. Okay, I just need to confirm this one. All right, I understand. I just need to confirm this. Is he awake at all? Is he conscious at all?
No. He's purple.
Is he breathing?
No.
All right. I need you to get him on the floor, flat on his back for me, okay?
I did. I tried giving him CPR.
All right.
I tried giving him CPR.
Yeah, okay. Well,
but nothing happened. He's purple.
Okay, listen to me. There's a defibrillator available. I need you to get it for me, okay?
What is it?
You have an AED available?
No.
All right. You're right by him now.
I'm sorry?
Are you right by him now?
Yes.
Okay. Lay him flat on his... Okay, ma'am, listen. So listen, is he cold and stiff?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, he's not necessarily cold, but he's stiff. And
right,
he's
okay. All right, listen to me. Listen to me. I want you to lay him flat on his back for me on the floor.
I did.
Removing the pillows, okay.
Yes, I did.
All right, okay.
He's stiff and purple.
Right, okay, listen. Okay, man, that's fine. We're still going to do compressions on him, okay? Place the heel of your hand on his breastbone, right in the center of the chest, right between the nipples.
Yes.
Put your other hand on top of that hand.
Baby, I'm telling you. Just by looking at him, you can tell.
Okay.
Please. Okay, he just gurgled.
Okay. Listen to me. All right. I want you to place the heel of your hand. Okay, right between his chest, right between his breastbone.
Yes.
Put your other hand on top of that hand.
Yes,
we want to pump his chest to me hard and fast, going to twice per second.
I'm doing it again.
Okay, no, just keep on pumping. That's all you need to do for me. Keep on pumping his chest for me. I don't need you to stop and talk or anything. I just want you to count out loud for me, okay?
13, 14, 15. This is come on, please, hurry up.
Okay, ma'am, they're driving here as fast as they can. Okay, don't stop to say hurry up. Just keep on pumping and counting.
I'm still doing it while I'm pumping you, okay?
Okay.
Still doing it.
All right, just continue pumping. Just count on a second count with you.
31, 32. Please hurry.
Okay, ma'am, they're getting here as fast as they can, okay?
He's stiff and he's purple.
Okay. Keep pumping his chest for me, ma'am.
I'm still doing it, okay? Still doing it. Just don't make me count. Please.
Okay. Keep on pumping, ma'am. 1,
We were playing hide
2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep on pumping for me, ma'am.
I'm doing it. Believe me, I'm doing it, okay? We were playing hide and seek.
Okay. All right, I understand. All right, just keep on pumping for me, okay?
Please hurry.
Right, okay.
Horrible. This is horrific. What happened? Like, what happened?
Okay, ma'am, just keep on pumping his chest for me, okay? They're in the parking lot. They should be up there shortly, okay?
Yes. I'm still doing it, okay?
All right, okay, good. And you found him in a suitcase, you said?
Yes. We were playing hide and seek last night. I fell asleep. I think they're here.
All right, just keep on pumping his chest until they take over, okay?
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Okay.
Open. Come in. Can I stop pumping now?
Let them take over for you, okay?
When was the last time anybody saw him? Last night. We were playing hide and seek. He hid in the suitcase. Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately,
he's been down too long. There's nothing we can do for him.
This is our first evidence showing Sarah's demeanor regarding this horrific event. She right away just says, "My boyfriend's dead." There's no emotion in her voice at all when she says this. The emotion actually comes later, where she almost appears to be frustrated that the dispatcher isn't understanding that George is dead. He's purple and stiff, and CPR is unnecessary. Although she does begin to perform CPR, she previously has already said she has done, yet you can hear her screaming as George gurgles at the first compression, leading me to believe that she never attempted CPR on him, as she claimed. She counts along with the dispatcher until police arrive. A female officer begins to question Sarah, and her body cam records everything. She begins asking Sarah what happened. Sarah's distraught, but doesn't seem to be showing the emotions that one would be showing if they had just found out that their loved one tragically died inside of a suitcase. Going back to that notion that everyone reacts differently to traumatic events, we're just going to leave that aside for now. Sarah begins to explain the night, talking about having a bottle of Chardonnay and frequently saying that she doesn't normally drink, but that George does, and that everything about that Sunday was pretty much geared towards helping George. Sarah's main concern appears to be getting a cigarette and a Dr. Pepper, when she's turned down for those things because they're inside the home and she is no longer allowed inside the home as it is now being processed as a possible crime scene.
I really need something to drink.
Okay, well,
I got my Dr. Pepper on the counter.
okay, we'll take care of you. 1 second.
It's on the counter.
I can't move anything from out of the house.
I'm so thirsty. Like, I'm
Here, I want you to sit down because I don't want you passing out. This is probably a lot for you to deal
I
with,
need
right? Sit,
I don't water. Just water.
I can get you some water, okay? Just, I want you not on your seat because I don't want you passing out on me. Sit right here. Don't talk to the ex-husband right now.
I won't. Can I have a cigarette, please?
Ma'am, I can't take anything out of the house.
It's on the back porch.
Nope, all of it. It's secure, okay? I'll try my best to get you what you need, okay? Maybe one of these deputies has a pack from someone, sit down and I'll try and get you what you need, okay?
I please just have a cigarette. They're on the back porch.
Not right now. We can't have you go and get anything. Why don't you sit in the shade? You okay right there? Or maybe a little closer here where the shade is?
Am I able? Can someone ask? I know you said, wait a minute. My ex-husband buying that cigarette.
We can't let you guys communicate right now.
I know it's supposed to ask for one.
You want me to get a cigarette from him and bring it to you?
That's okay. Ask for a lighter. Thank you.
Audible 1303 Island Bay Drive. I'll do what I can to get you a cup because I don't want you to have to keep doing that. Maintenance should have a proper to cancel the indication for the front door. Motor unit on the channel. The cups are like right there. 44.
She begins to drink water out of her neighbor's outdoor hose attachment faucet thing. Sarah is shaking, she's upset, and she appears to be a bit rattled, but she's not hysterical. She's not overly emotional. She's actually very matter-of-fact about everything. Another thing about Sarah is she seems really shocked that George died simply from being in a suitcase overnight.
So I came downstairs and I was like, oh, he's in the suitcase still.
So you were playing and you zipped him up in.
I did, but then I fell asleep.
Okay, so you're okay. I wasn't here. I'm just trying to figure out what
I
happened.
fell asleep, so I don't know if he suffocated or like had an aneurysm or a heart attack or what.
What kind of medical conditions does he have?
None that I know of.
Nothing that you know of.
None
You
that I
didn't take
know
any
of.
medicine?
No.
No medicine.
All we had was a bottle of wine. Literally, just a bottle of wine.
Okay.
Doing puzzle artwork. Then we decided to play hide and seek. That's all that happened.
Okay.
So I don't know if he had a heart attack or what in there. Like, I don't know what happened.
Sarah even suggests that maybe he had an aneurysm or a heart attack. Homicide detectives arrive and they begin questioning Sarah, and she tells them basically the same story that she just told the officer. She's given up asking for a cigarette at this point, and she seems to have hydrated herself enough out of her neighbor's water hose faucet, but she has some other concerns. Her main concern now is George's family. When will they be notified? What will they be told? Sarah explains that she fears for her own life, suggesting that when George's family finds out that George is dead, they will blame Sarah for it, and they will come and they will kill her.
I'm like really scared. I want you guys to know that.
Look around. You have all these deputies here, so while we're here, nothing's going to happen to you. Before we go and make any notifications, you'll have plenty of time to leave or do what you need to do. Whatever you need to do. Okay?
So, but do you guys tell his family like today or after tomorrow?
We have to.
It's the law. So, but like, what do you just tell him? What do you tell his parents? Like, what's the reason? Passed away.
We tell them what we know at that point.
Yeah.
We tell them the truth.
They're gonna think I killed him.
Why would they think that?
They always have said that. They've always have said that.
What have they
I
said?
told you it's because I'm the blue-eyed white dragon. That's what they call me. Because they don't want him with me. So he's basically just not really been around his family because he chooses me over them. Even after I've encouraged him numerous times to go over there and see his family.
Well, like I said, we're not going to leave here. If you do not feel safe, we are not going to leave here with you not feeling safe. Because then we're liable.
And then his ex-wife in Philadelphia.
Well, she's in Philadelphia, but yes.
There's going to be a funeral.
Right.
She even asked the detective why George is purple and how did he die. She also brings up funeral arrangements and how will she be notified since his family doesn't like her. She tells the detectives that George's family calls her the White Devil and the White Dragon, and that even though she has done so much for George, they don't like her one bit. Tuesday, February 25th, the very next day, Sarah drives down to the police station to do a formal interview. Sarah maintains her composure very well, really only getting upset when police don't seem to be understanding her story, that they were just playing, and that this was unintentional. During this interview, Sarah refers to George in present tense the whole time. And the reason I wanted to make note of this is because many times we see the opposite when someone is guilty of taking someone's life. That's because they know that the person is no longer here. In this case, we know that Sarah knows George is dead, but she still speaks as if he's still alive. I find this a little important because it suggests that either she still hasn't accepted that George is in fact actually dead, or she's just very out of touch with reality. And it goes along with her visible shock that he did in fact die simply from being in a suitcase overnight. I question, can she really be that stupid, or is this all a manipulation tactic? They press her on their main issue with her story, which is how did she think that George would have been able to get himself out of that suitcase on his own? Sarah had told him that she didn't zip the suitcase up all the way, that she had left a small hole, and that George was able to put his fingers through the hole, and therefore he was able to get out. She also claimed that it was never her intention to fall asleep. She insisted that she only had about 2 or maybe 3 glasses of wine, and that she was not intoxicated. She was not drunk. Yet, there were points later on in the interview where she said things like alcohol is a shitty thing, and specifically blamed alcohol for the entire event.
Well, I didn't completely lock it. I mean, I opened it with one finger. I left enough in there for him to get out.
Okay.
You thought he could get out on his
Yes.
But the video shows that he cannot get out on his own.
I did not zip it up all the way.
Now, here's where Sarah's about to get a reality check, because Sarah did something many people do. Sarah incriminated herself. I feel like I need to draw a stick figure thing, this is Sarah. Sarah is a straight A student who excels at everything. Sarah is not as smart as she claims to be. Sarah has incriminated herself. You see, because Sarah was read her Miranda rights when she was questioned on Monday, immediately following the incident, and she was also read her Miranda rights again right before this line of questioning. So essentially, Sarah waived her Fifth Amendment right, which is, say it with me, the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney before answering any questions, and if you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to you at no charge. Sarah. So not only did she waive her right to remain silent, but she also gave the police access to her phone and laptop. She also agreed to come in for questioning that day, and she drove herself there and walked in of her own free will, confident that she had done nothing wrong. However, on Sarah's cell phone, there were 2 videos that were taken on that Sunday night. One video was taken at 11:12 p.m. and the second video just 11 minutes later at 11:23 p.m. And let me tell you, these 2 videos do not make Sarah look good. In the first video, Sarah's filming George inside of the suitcase. You can see him moving around in there. He seems to be trying to get out. He is repeating her name over and over again.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
Fuck you.
Sarah.
Fuck you.
Sarah.
Stupid.
Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it up.
Sarah, I can't breathe, babe. Seriously.
Yeah, that's when you do when you choke me.
Sarah can be heard laughing, giggling, all throughout both of these videos. The second video is pretty much the same as the first. You can see George moving around in the suitcase, pushing up, trying to get out, and this time the suitcase is flipped over the right way. The first video, the suitcase is on its top, and in this video, it's more pushed up against a wall, and it's flipped up the proper way, I guess you would say. A way that you could get in and out. Take a look.
Sarah.
There are a few things detectives noticed about this video. The most obvious, she seemed to know that George could not get out of that suitcase. And not only does she make zero attempt to get him out, she taunts him while he's inside. In my opinion, she's almost intoxicated by the power that she has over him at this moment. It's like you can hear it in her voice that she also sounds extremely intoxicated on alcohol. I mean, I don't know what she's talking about only having a half a bottle of wine for some people, I suppose, may make them talk like this, but you can hardly understand her. Another thing detectives noticed about this video is that there doesn't appear to be a hole at all where George would have been able to put his fingers through to unzip the suitcase. Nor did it appear that when George was moving and kind of pushing up on the suitcase that the hole became visible at any point, indicating that the suitcase was in fact zipped up all the way. But I'm not playing the whole thing because honestly, he was a bad guy, I think. Still, he just seems so helpless in this situation, and I mean, we're essentially watching someone pass away. It's eerie. Sarah insisted she did not remember making these videos, again blaming it on alcohol. The main reason, however, that detectives wanted to speak with Sarah this Tuesday was because the results of the autopsy had come back, and while the cause of death was determined to be positional asphyxia, that was not the only thing the medical examiner found. So aside from the fact that George died due to being trapped in a suitcase and Sarah was the one who zipped him in, he had a multitude of injuries to his body as well. He had contusions on his head, arms, legs, he had a black eye, and he had a cut above his lip, all of which Sarah claimed she had no idea how they got there because neither one of them laid a hand on each other that day or night. Remember, it was a good day.
How he got these injuries, and I have no idea. You were the only one with him. 100% right hand to God. I have no idea how he got them.
She did say that the scratches that were found on his back were from sex. She also said that George had fallen off of her son's bike the day before and that he was notorious for running into walls. Sarah had no marks on her at all, leading detectives to believe her that they didn't have a physical altercation together. What detectives believe to have happened is that after talking with neighbors, one of the neighbors said that late Sunday night they had heard a loud noise, almost like something fell down the stairs. Here is that interview.
Do you recall hearing anything coming from apartment 3 while you were, after you had gotten home?
Around 10:30 or 11 o'clock, there was a very loud crashing sound where I believe, I'm not sure, I haven't been in their apartment like my roommate, but I believe is the location of the staircase.
Okay, so
a little bit above.
A very loud, you said crashing sound?
Yeah, like it sounded like something had been like falling down the stairs. Because it started up high and then it ended low.
Something that I noticed in the interrogation is that when asked about the location of the suitcase and why it was out, Sarah said that the suitcase is usually kept in the bedroom closet. Well, we know that the bedroom's upstairs, from Sarah's own words.
I was awake, but I actually got out of the bed at like 12:30ish, whatever. So I came downstairs.
And the layout of the townhouse. So it is possible that the suitcase was still upstairs when George got inside of it, and that Sarah pushed it down the stairs with him in it. It would certainly make sense with the neighbors' claims of it sounding like something heavy fell down the stairs, and it would also fit with the multiple contusions that George had on his whole body, basically. As far as the scratches and the cut above his lip and the black eye, that doesn't look good for Sarah either. She may have very well been telling the truth when she said that George was becoming a changed man and that he hadn't laid a hand on her. But let's not forget, though Sarah is a victim of DV, she is also proven to be a perpetrator. In fact, another thing that neighbors said when questioned by police was that Sarah was drunk on a daily basis and could be quite belligerent when she was drinking, frequently yelling at neighbors and causing a scene. The woman that Sarah Boone portrayed herself as, in my opinion, is merely a figment of her own imagination. Or maybe she's speaking of her former self, before developing a drinking problem and before meeting Jorge Torres. The timeline that she's giving is from 12:30 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. That is 12 hours. She admits he was trapped in a small suitcase. And this is a 42-year-old man. This is an adult, and he does look to be a little on the smaller side, but I don't know how she thinks that anyone could have survived being in there for that long. And of course, let's not forget the videos she took. He's asking for help. She knows he can't get out. It appears to me that she could have thought she was going to keep him in there as a punishment and that she could just come down in the morning and let him out and everything would be fine. But I'm also wondering if she waited on purpose because she was afraid to let him out. I mean, if he's been AB with her in the past, she could have woken up and realized, oh my God, he's gonna effing kick my ass. It's possible too. The reason she's behaving shocked, it's because she's actually shocked. Something that I noticed as well is that Sarah said she went upstairs at 12:30 a.m. This video was taken at 11:12 p.m. The neighbor's report of something falling down the stairs was between 10:30 and 11 p.m. So if I were to put this timeline together, the suitcase was upstairs, he gets in it, she zips him up, she kicks it down the stairs at some point, and then where it lands, she begins the first video, then she goes and messes with him, flips it over, and films the second video. I don't know if she was so drunk that she didn't remember any of this, or she didn't remember making these videos, or if she maybe didn't remember exactly what she was saying on these videos or what it could possibly look like. But I also don't know if they were deleted because she gave written and verbal consent for them to take her phone and the laptop. So even if it were deleted, if she didn't delete the deleted, and they can still get that data. So I'm not sure. She could have possibly deleted it. That's something that we don't know for sure. But had she never made these videos, I think this whole case would have been dealt with much differently. It does point more to second-degree murder because I don't think she planned it. Because if she had planned it, I don't think she would have left something as major as a video behind. Sarah's also saying that it was very easy for her to open the suitcase from the outside, but it's also come out that that suitcase zipper was broken. She had to use a paperclip to even zip it up, which may make it even more difficult to open, especially from the inside. As the detective points out, suitcases are not designed to be open from the inside. And I don't think it takes a genius to know that if someone is telling you, I can't breathe, and calling out your name, it doesn't necessarily need to be verbatim, let me out of here. And we're looking at the videos. So we're following evidence. George was in the suitcase, pushing up, trying to get out. There were no fingers sticking out of a hole. There was no visible hole. And verbally, George is telling Sarah that he cannot breathe. The evidence clearly shows that George is unable to get out of the suitcase and that he's asking for assistance from Sarah. Sarah's not giving him any assistance. Sarah is laughing. And eventually, she seems to be getting angry by the tone of her voice and the things that she's saying. Sarah never lets him out of that suitcase while he's alive. And she intentionally goes upstairs, leaving George in the suitcase. By the time she opens up that suitcase, George is dead. Those are the facts. That is the evidence. Sarah's retort to this, she had no intention of leaving him in the suitcase. She simply went upstairs and fell asleep.
The problem is I fell asleep. I fell asleep. But then I fell asleep. Okay, you're okay. I wasn't here. I'm just trying to figure out what happened. I fell asleep.
I mean, come on. She fell asleep. In her mind, George could have gotten himself out of that suitcase at any time and come upstairs to bed at some point. She completely ignores the evidence that she filmed herself of him proving that she needed to assist him if he was ever going to get out of that suitcase. Some icing on the cake for you guys. Sarah goes and makes a statement like this, quote, "This is horrific. I don't think I'll ever be right after this. With everything else going on in my life right now, and now this, as if her boyfriend's death is an inconvenience rather than a tragedy." She also keeps saying, hand on the Bible, this was not intentional, or she's on my son's life, or on God. And really, at this point, it doesn't matter. They got Sarah by her own words. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Let me tell you, people, if you're innocent or guilty, it doesn't fucking matter. You have the right to an attorney. You have the right to keep your mouth closed. And I suggest you exercise that right no matter what. You may have to sit in jail and wait for an attorney, but legally, they have to appoint one for you. And I can guarantee you, especially if you are innocent, it is so important that you exercise that right. Does it look bad? Will people talk shit? Who cares? It's your life. So many people have been convicted or have had to sit in jail because of their own words being used against them. I also think another tactic for playing and replaying this video in which George is calling out Sarah's name.
Sarah, for everything you've done to me. Sarah, for everything you've done to me.
Your battery's about to die.
Sorry,
Do I have to watch this? I continuously throw up. I don't sleep. I don't want to see it, if that's okay.
You're laughing in the beginning, and then in the end, it sounds kind of like a...
No, it's not malicious.
Stupid.
It's not malicious.
Then what is that?
What does fuck you mean to you?
Well,
They're trying to gauge her reaction. I don't know about anyone else, but myself, of course. And I have to say, if I were in Sarah's position, and I had just done this, and it truly was an accident, I think I would be devastated. I think I would be crying. I think I would be inconsolable. And then hearing a recording of the man I love calling out my name, knowing that I never meant for this to happen. I mean, I think it would cause me to break down. But we don't see that with Sarah at all. I have spoken in the past about cluster B personality disorders, and I don't know anything about Sarah's mental state, nor am I a doctor, but from what I've learned over the years, it does appear to me that she has some sort of personality disorder. She definitely appears to show some narcissistic traits.
I excel at everything.
As well as a clear lack of empathy and grasp on reality. Towards the end, she says how she will never drink alcohol again. You're right, Sarah. I mean, well, maybe not a fine Chardonnay, but I hear the hooch is something you can get used to in prison. When George asked her to be let out, why instead of saying, fuck you, does she not let him out? Sarah then takes a deep breath and looks down. And again, she says, because I thought he was the boy crying wolf. The female detective then asks Sarah, if someone locked you in a suitcase and you were begging to be let out, would you expect to be let out? She doesn't say anything, but after a while she says, eventually. And then she says, you know, I'm blaming it on the wine.
If you were, say it's opposite, you were in the suitcase and you're asking to be let out, would you hope that that person would let you out? Like, you're asking to be let out of a suitcase, should they not let you out?
Eventually. I'm guessing. I mean, I'm blaming it on the wine.
Though up until now, she's basically said she wasn't drunk. She had 2 glasses of wine, maybe 3. Her ex-husband has already said, or at least insinuated, that she might have a problem with alcohol.
Around 11:30 is when I started calling to find out, because this is supposed to be her day. Her child. She's generally not very good about always doing it.
They called back and said she was still there, or she came.
She's dipped out of her son in the past because of alcohol, and that can usually be a sign that there may be a problem there. 2 glasses would certainly not cause a blackout. But Sarah is someone who now admittedly drinks 2 glasses of wine or 3 a night, and was trying to say that because of those 2 glasses of wine, she not only made a poor decision to zip her boyfriend up in a suitcase, but also to leave him there all night long after taunting him, and then being so messed up that she forgot? Come on now, Sarah. Which is it? Did this happen because you were too f***ed up, or did you purposely do it? Or maybe, which is what I think, it's a little bit of both. So the detectives have now said that there were actually 2 empty bottles of wine that were both purchased that day. Sarah also keeps saying, it's not fair, it's not fair, it's not fair. Why are you blaming these injuries on me? Everything's gonna get pinned on me now.
It's not fair at all.
Yes.
That you all are assuming that that's from me. Alcohol is a shitty thing. It's alcohol. It's not cool. Like, this is not cool.
It's not cool.
That it.
She's dead. It's
but
not
you
cool.
think.
They both remind her that George is now dead because of her. Yet her only response is, I know, and it's not fair. She then starts asking questions like, are you guys gonna call his probation officer, or is that something that I need to do? She's like, what about the substance abuse classes and the DV classes? And she's like, oh, I guess I have to do that now too. I almost feel like she's asking these things to reiterate to the detectives that he's the AB in this relationship. But then again, she also makes a comment where she realizes that because he's been AB to her in the past, it gives her motive. Sarah then asks what happens to the engagement ring on his finger, and she's told that it will go to the next of kin, so it's probably going to go to the family. And she says, well, but I bought it for him. You know, it just amazes me the things that she's worried about. Day that she found him, she's worried about a cigarette, Dr. Pepper, and drinking out of a hose, and now she's worried, and her own life. Let's not forget about that. And now she's worried about her phone, her laptop, the engagement ring on his finger, and then she starts asking about the funeral arrangements. And even the detectives are like, the family's probably not even thinking about that yet. For one, we still have the body. We're still running tests on the body. Forensics comes, takes her fingernail clippings or scrapings or whatever. At this point, I can't believe she's not crying. It's very quiet. They're in there just scraping away at her fingers, which is way more intricate than I would have ever expected. To me, it's like, it would have like all hit me there. But again, you know, everyone reacts to trauma differently. I feel like it would have just all come crashing down at that moment. And I would have been like, what did I just do, right? I mean, I have cried more being accused of far less that I didn't do. And not only that, her boyfriend is dead. She looks bothered. She looks inconvenienced. And honestly, she looks a little bit relieved that she's about to go home. And she keeps talking about getting her ducks in a row, such as, you know, the probation officer and figuring out funeral arrangements and her engagement ring. She's almost seems cocky.
I'm being accused of something that was not intentional. I'm being accused of it. And a handful of other things that I'm being accused of. Okay. I'm not admitting anything about being intentional and I killed George, but it's trying to be pinned on me. So however or whatever it is I need to do in order for that to be proven, then I need to do so, which is why I'm trying to get my ducks in a row. So that's why I'm asking what the next step is other than me getting my nails swabbed. I got to stick up for myself.
I mean, you want me to tell you how to not be accused of a crime? Is that what you're asking? Like, I don't know what you want.
I'm trying to prepare myself.
She's not distraught in the least bit. She's like annoyed. And she already admitted to the scratches on him being from sex. So I assume that these fingernail scrapings mean nothing to her, and in a way that is getting some ducks in a row. When they're done gathering the evidence, they ask Sarah to stand up and turn around and put her hands behind her back. And it's clear to Sarah right then and there she's being arrested for George's death. She says, quote, so this was a trick. And then she continues to say this was not intentional. The detective says, doesn't matter if it was intentional, George is still dead. They go through her belongings, they take her cigarettes out of her purse, and of course, that's a huge concern for Sarah.
I just got those.
Okay. They are not allowed in the jail.
So I can't even smoke cigarettes when I go.
As she makes sure that they know that she had just bought those before coming in. And she's also confused as to why she can't have at least one cigarette before they take her to jail. She also asks where she will be held because the holding cells cause her to have panic attacks, and she doesn't have her medication either. I mean, enough, Sarah, enough with you. So Sarah's trial date has been moved a few times. Currently, it's set for February of 2023. That is exactly 3 years from George's death. So what do you think about this case? Do you think second-degree murder is a proper charge for Sarah? Do you think she did this on purpose? Or do you think the charge should be less? Do you think it should be more? Do you think this was planned? Now, this is what I think. First of all, I said at the beginning, you're going to have a hard time figuring out who the victim in this case is. I mean, Sarah plays victim very, very well. Does she not? I mean, she's the hero in this case, the savior.
I mean, is there any chance it got to be too much for you and you couldn't handle taking care of him? And
I never stopped.
I never stopped.
That's what I'm here for. I never stopped. I'm here now because I'm still trying to help him.
And this is so not fair that she's now going to be in trouble for something that she had no intentions of happening. All right, let's get on with my opinion. Remember, this is my opinion, only my opinion. Form your own opinion, do your own research, all of that good stuff. So this is what I think. I think Sarah has some sort of personality disorder. I think she's very controlling. I think that she holds herself up on a pedestal like she's better than other people. And I think that she's in denial that she has a drinking problem. Maybe not to herself, because I kind of hear in her during this interrogation process, she knows she has a problem, but she's trying really hard to not let anyone else think that.
I don't want to drink. The occasional wine, whatever, or if it's a weekend, that's when you have a good time. You don't have to wake up the next day. I have to wake up the next day and do things. I have to tend to Lucas. I have to take him to school. I have all this stuff to do.
I mean, outwardly, all I hear is excuses. I do think Jorge Torres was a violent man. And unfortunately, I think people that grow up with violence and committing violent acts, they're not easily changed by a few classes over a couple of weeks. I do believe that Sarah was AB'd by George, but I also believe that there were times that she fought back. I believe that they had a very toxic, alcohol-fueled relationship. When you listen to the interview of the male neighbor, there is a part that he talks about in regards to George and says he was a bad guy. And he described two distinct incidences where he had witnessed odd behavior by Sarah, one of which when he found her sleeping on his back patio, and another when she seemed to just be wandering around talking to people, not wanting to be in her apartment, which does coincide with something that Sarah said during her interrogation, which was that George would get heated and she would flee. I do believe she tried to help him, but only because she enjoyed having power and control over him. I don't take George necessarily to be the type of man to be controlled and overpowered, especially by a woman. As far as that night, I don't know what the situation was for him to get inside of that suitcase, but in my opinion, the second she closed it up, she realized that she had full power and control over him. The more he asked for help, the more she realized she had all the control. And probably for the very first time in their entire relationship, he was at her mercy, and she loved it. Every time he said her name, she felt more empowered. She made remarks about him choking her, cheating on her, and she even said, quote, "For everything you've done to me," unquote.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
Fuck you.
Sarah.
Fuck you.
Sarah.
Stupid.
Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it up.
Sarah. I can't fucking breathe, babe. Seriously.
Yeah, that's when you do when you choke me.
This is a woman who was extremely resentful, and I do believe she snapped. I don't think she had any intention of George dying, but I do believe that once he was in the suitcase, it was quite intentional that she went upstairs to bed, leaving him in there for the night, knowing that he could not get out. She was punishing him. She was teaching him a lesson, kind of like, this is what you get. You stay in there and you think about what you did. Good night, I'm going to bed. And then when she got up in the morning, she very may well have forgotten what happened the night before, but once she remembered, she may have been fearful to even go downstairs at first, afraid that he had gotten out and was waiting for her, or that when she let him out, he was going to kill her, until she realized that he wasn't moving. I really do believe she wasn't expecting him to die. The relief that I sense in her may come from the fear that she felt when she woke up, a little bit more sober, although I don't know if she was fully sober, and she realized what she did when she had that liquid courage to stand up to him. But it doesn't matter. What she did to him was extremely abusive, and she knew that much. Once she realized he was dead, she didn't seem to care. Sarah has been charged with second-degree murder. The definition of second-degree murder is basically an intentional killing without premeditation. There's no plan ahead of time, but while in the moment, the killing is intentional. Another situation that constitutes second-degree murder is intent to cause only serious bodily harm. So basically, you know what you're doing to a person could severely injure them, and death could be the result as well. The third type is extreme indifference to human life, and that usually occurs when a victim dies as a result of the perpetrator's extreme indifference to the value of human life. Basically, a complete disregard to the possibility that what they're doing could kill that person. These three types vary depending on the jurisdiction. However, I do feel that second-degree murder is the correct charge for Sarah, in my opinion. I do not believe that she planned this, but I can't accept that she didn't realize that at the very least, keeping him in a suitcase for that long could have killed him, given the fact he told her twice he couldn't breathe. Yet she still went upstairs and went to bed. And if she didn't realize that, then the third type would come into play, where she shows an extreme indifference to human life. She may not have meant to kill him, but she also didn't give any thought to the harm that her actions could cause him. Sarah may not have intentionally killed George, but at the same time, this wasn't an accident. And in my opinion, her lack of remorse and acceptance of responsibility in George's death shows she didn't love him. In my opinion, Sarah was codependent on George's flaws. It made her feel important, It made her feel superior, but it caused a building resentment when George didn't seem to appreciate any of it. And up until being charged with his murder, I think she was almost relieved that it was all over. What do you think? Thank you guys so much for listening. I will talk to you guys later, hopefully in person. I just wanted to get this out. It was starting to take too long for me to record. I will see you guys on the next one. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.